In this forecast video, we are forecasting subtropical storm Nicole, expected to bring impacts from the Bahamas, Florida, and the East Coast. Also taking a big look at our next big storm, expected to bring down fierce cold air that could stick around for a while. All the details on that big forecast is coming right up. Alrighty, welcome back into another more weather forecast video. Let's get right into the details, but before we do that, we did have a pretty big tornado outbreak from Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Louisiana on Friday, I think. It was pretty significant. I did do a video about that. It was a pretty significant tornado outbreak. Of course, our prayers extend out to those people because it was, again, pretty significant what happened there. We had a few big time tornadoes, and again, our prayers extend out to those people. But let's now get straight on into the forecast. So for right now, subtropical storm Nicole is locating north of the Bahamas and the Caribbean islands. By the time we go into Tuesday, Nicole is expected to strengthen into a tropical storm. And then by the time we go into Wednesday, you can see we do those hurricane warnings out for the Bahamas. Expect to be a tropical storm, though, by this point. So why are there hurricane warnings? Because there is a possibility Nicole could strengthen to a low-end hurricane, and those hurricane conditions could be felt even out of this cone. You're asking, Becky, why is there warnings outside of the cone? Well, that is because look at the impacts we're seeing right now. Look at this wind field for this low-end subtropical storm Nicole right now. As we keep going here, this area of impacts with this wind field is going to continue to get bigger. So even areas outside of this cone of uncertainty are going to experience impacts. That's why we have warnings for Florida. You can see from Georgia, this coast of Georgia, all the way down to Miami, where it's expected to make landfall. So by the time we go into Thursday, early on Thursday, we're expecting Hurricane Nicole, possibly low-end hurricane, probably Category 1, maybe Category 2, but likely Category 1 Hurricane Nicole to make landfall early Thursday morning somewhere near Miami, likely north of Miami. Anywhere on this cone there, though, is where we could see landfall from Nicole, but likely somewhere near or north of Miami. But you can see we do have those tropical storm warnings and hurricane watches extending from the coast of Georgia all the way down to Miami, where it's expected to make landfall. That just shows how big Nicole's impacts are going to be. Again, the biggest threats, the biggest risks here are going to be that pretty big storm surge. Now, we're not talking about Hurricane Ian type storm surge, but that storm surge threat is there. We also have those winds, and that wind field, again, is going to be very large impacts across Florida, even into Georgia. And then, of course, that tornado severe weather threat, as Nicole comes on shore, we could be seeing some severe weather as well. So again, another aspect to watch for as well here. And then by the time we go into later this week, into the weekend, we're expecting Nicole to, for a short period of time, go into the Gulf of Mexico or up here to northern Florida, curve around, and then go up the eastern coast, probably bring some flooding problems, as well as some gusty winds from Georgia all the way up into the Delmarva, say New Jersey region as well here. So Nicole's is not a huge storm. I mean, its impacts are huge. It's not a very powerful storm, but the impacts, the area of impacts are going to be pretty big. So this is going to impact a lot of people. This is nothing like Ian, so don't be afraid of that. Impacts are going to be not super significant, but still that storm surge that big storm surge possibility is there. So make sure you are prepared for this if you are in those warned areas from Georgia to Florida, as well as the Bahamas. Okay, now that we're done with the subtropical storm Nicole forecast, let's go over to the GFS model. So like I said when I started off this video, we are expecting a big storm to develop as we go later this week, coming across the country, bringing some more impacts, snow, severe weather expected. And the difference from this storm, from all the other storms we've been having, is that we're expecting a pattern change to come along with it. And that means cold air for a lot of people for possibly a long time. So let's look into why that's going to be happening. So by the time we go into mid this week, so by the time we go into Tuesday and Wednesday, we're going to see this low pressure system start to come in to the west. We're going to be seeing snow, big time snow, from the Sierra Nevadas all the way into the Rockies, starting on Tuesday, going into Wednesday and Thursday as well here. If we keep going out in time here, you can see this low pressure system really starts to strengthen here. And like we've been seeing with a lot of these systems, there's going to be some strong winds near this low pressure system and out in front of this low pressure system. So that's going to be something to watch for here. You can see those tight lines there. That's going to be signifying that we're going to be having, you can see those tight little lines there. That's good. There's a lot more into it, but the simple fact of it is that we're going to be seeing some pretty gusty winds in that region. So from the southern Great Plains all the way into the Great Lakes region, we're going to be seeing gusty winds out in front of the system like we've been seeing a lot of time. I know where I live in St. Louis, on Saturday, I think we had some gusty winds out in front of that low pressure system that contributed to those tornadoes in Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, and Louisiana. And we've been seeing that pattern with a lot of these weather systems coming across the country, a lot of wind out in front of them, and that's what we're expecting with this as well. So make sure your patio things are secure as we go into later this week. Again, starting on Thursday, that's when we're expecting those gusty winds to start. But you can see out behind this storm, we got heavy snow, and this isn't just normal snow. This is looking to be heavy snow. That's why we could see big amounts of snow. We'll get into that as we go later into this video. And then possible severe storms firing off from Kansas into Iowa by the time we go into Thursday. That's why we do have that Storm Prediction Center Day 4 probability outlook, 15% chance, basically a slight risk, all the way from southern Minnesota into northern Kansas, the Kansas City region. We're going to be watching this again. Usually when we see severe weather this far north, especially this far into this late into the season, we don't see a lot of big severe weather outbreak or anything like that. And if we look at our moisture levels, you can see we do have moisture in place. So we're going to have that moisture in place for the creation of storms. Now, this isn't a ton of moisture, so I don't expect a severe weather outbreak. I don't expect anything too big here, but this severe weather aspect of this is going to be something to watch. I don't expect anything too big, but if you're in Kansas, northeastern Kansas, especially into western Iowa, as well as into southern Minnesota here, and into as you can see, southeastern Nebraska here. Make sure you're ready for this. Again, the timing, the placement, still to be fine-tuned for this forecast, but severe weather definitely going to be an aspect of the storm we are going to have to watch for. So let's keep timing this out here. So by the time we go into Friday, you can see that heavy snow continues to fall in North Dakota. We're going to be seeing heavy snow, so Fargo to Bismarck, all across North Dakota into southern or northern South Dakota here. We're going to be watching for very big amounts of snow, very heavy snow. So again, something to watch for some rain and some icing as well in the northeastern Minnesota and northern Wisconsin by the time we go into Friday. Again, something to watch for, but mainly snow is going to be our main aspect, and severe weather as well. You can see Nicole down here coming up into the eastern United States. That's going to interact with the system. Still some snow showers into Minnesota by the time we go into later on Friday. That's going to interact with Nicole's going to interact with the system, kind of carry that along with it, and that's going to go off into the northeast, bringing possible flooding problems from Georgia all the way into New England. So something to watch for there. You can see we could see some heavy rain, as well as the Storm Prediction Center has outlined that there's a chance that over here in the southeast, they could put into effect areas of concern for severe weather. So again, an aspect to watch here with Nicole, expecting to bring some severe weather. That's definitely a possibility here. So let's keep going. I got a little sidetracked there. So let's keep going. And by the time we go into Sunday, you can see that gets Nicole and the remnants of it and the storm it brings along into the East Coast. It's expected to get out of here by the time we go into later on Sunday. And then those lake effect snow machines are going to be in full power, turned on by the time we go into later this weekend into early next week. We're going to be seeing snow from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan into Ohio, and you guys know that when these lake effect snow machines, of course that's metaphorical, turn on here, we a lot of times see a lot of snow. We'll get into the snow forecast later in this video, but this could bring a lot of snow, especially along Lake Ontario, Lake Erie, and Lake Michigan. All the lakes really, but especially Lake Ontario and Lake Erie is where we usually see our biggest lake effect snow accumulations there. And you can see right behind this this big storm that comes through, I didn't really mention that, we're going to see a big punch of cold air, and this could stick around for a while. We'll get into that in a few really seconds here. But as we keep going here with the model, you can see that cold air continues down into the United States. We're going to see a plunge of cold air, and this could stick around for a couple days. So by the time we go into this weekend, Saturday, that's when we're going to really see that cold air come on in. And then by the time we go into Sunday, Monday, and then into Tuesday, we're going to continue to see that cold air. And you're asking, Becca, when is this cold air going to let up? And then look at what we got, a storm system developing in the southern Great Plains in Texas that could bring snow to Texas. Of course, take this with a grain of salt. We're not going to be seeing snow in Dallas. It's possible, but for right now, I mean, you got to take this with a grain of salt. This is possible. This is really looking pretty significant here. It's not looking like this exact scenario is going to play out with this storm system. Really just take this with a grain of salt. This is going to change like crazy, and this is the GFS model too. And as we keep going here, you can continue to see, again, that storm system going into the eastern United States, bringing snow to Tennessee and Kentucky as well here. So, again, a storm to watch. We could see some early snow, and that cold air, at the same time, is going to be sticking around in the eastern United States. You can see we'll continue to see that cold air stick around. Don't look at this for right now. I mean, this is complete nonsense. This is not going to happen. Again, something like this could happen, but we'll get into more of that as we go into the future. A lot of those details are still yet to be found out and fine-tuned there. And you can see by the time we go into next week, look at this cold air blast. Again, this exact scenario is not going to play out, but I mean, just look at this cold blast. This is going to be a time in November. We're going into mid to later November. We're going to be seeing a lot of cold air. So if you're a warm air lover, well, guess what? You're not going to be liking these next few weeks. We're going to be seeing a lot of cold air coming down into the United States, and it's looking pretty dang significant, especially for November. So again, something we're going to have to watch here. Just to know, by the time we go into this weekend and then into the next coming weeks, this could last a long time. We're going to be seeing cold air, a cold air resurgence into the eastern and mainly almost all the United States, from the eastern United States all the way to the central United States, but mainly in the central United States to the eastern United States. Again, is where we're going to be seeing that insane cold air. And if we look at it on this model right here, with the 850 MAR temperature anomaly, you can see by the time we go into later this weekend of Friday, we see that cold air coming down with that low pressure system. That low pressure system is going to let this cold air stream on in, and that's going to cause for our long period of cold air possible in the central and eastern United States. Definitely going to see a cold air blast as we go into later this week, into next week. How long it will stay for, that's still, we don't know the exact details, but I expect this to stay for, in the eastern United States. I expect this cold air to stay here for a good amount of time. So again, if you're a warm air lover, if you're a warm temperature lover, if you're a summer lover, you're not going to like this. We're going to be seeing a lot of cold air, and you can see by the time we go into next week, we are seeing a huge cold air blast coming into the United States. Now, this excites me because I'm a big cold air lover. I love the snow, and this does put a big chance for snow. Of course, don't get too excited. We're eventually probably going to see warm air resurge here, but for right now, we are expecting to see a lot of cold air starting this weekend and going into the coming weeks. This is going to be a top weather story. Cold air is going to be coming back down, and we're going to be seeing a long period of time for this cold air. Make sure you're ready for that, and we will continue to keep you updated on that. So we went pretty long there with that cold air forecast. The last thing we're going to look at here is the snow forecast, and you can see we're expecting big snow from the Sierra Nevadas, especially the Sierra Nevadas across the Rockies and into the northern Midwest. For right now, the GFS model is saying 43 inches in northern Dakota, or North Dakota here. I don't expect that. I think we could see a lot of snow, especially in northern South Dakota and all of North Dakota. For right now, I'm expecting probably 2 to 3 feet, maybe, in most areas in North Dakota. So make sure you're ready for this. Again, the forecast is going to change a little bit. I think the GFS models are pretty bullish here, but a lot of snowpack in the Sierra Nevadas, a lot of snowpack added on to what we already have in the Rocky Mountains, and then to the northern Great Plains. Even into northern Minnesota, we could be seeing some pretty big snow totals. So maybe our first big snow in a lot of these places. We are expecting a lot of snow to fall, and of course, that cold air air. But to sum it all up, a lot of snow is expected in these areas. You can see a big widespread swath of good amounts of snow from the system. And then again, that lake effect snow machines up here in the northeast, say Lake Erie, Lake Ontario, and even Lake Michigan, we could be seeing some pretty good snow totals coming off of those lake effect machines. So snow could be a pretty big story as we go into later into this week and into next week. Again, weather patterns looking pretty exciting, looking pretty active. Cold air is expected to come back in, and we will have all those updates as we go into the future. All right, that about wraps up this more weather forecast video. Again, subtropical Storm Nicole expected to affect Florida, bring major impacts from the Bahamas to Florida all the way up into the East Coast. And also, that major weather system expected to bring a major pattern change, possible severe weather, a lot of snow along with it, as you can see here. And we are going to be seeing a resurgence of cold air. A lot of cold air is going to be coming on in. You are going to want to stick here with more weather, as we are expecting a lot of cold air. Alrighty, as always, stay prepared out there, and I will see you soon with more weather.